talk about reviews. The best way to get reviews is not some sort of digital trick. It's doing a great job of installation. So there's a really simple definition, and I'm going to let Caitlyn say what it is. I mean, we could do 100 episodes about SEO. I think people would get bored. In the simplest terms, what is it?
It is truly how you show up on the internet.
Yeah. So and so let's move on to PPC. So what is PPC? First off.
Yeah, it stands for pay per click, which is kind of a dated term at this point because...
Hi, my name's Cory Getz. I'm with JHC in a Box, and today I have a couple of special guests with me today. These ladies are the owners of the marketing company that I use for my construction company. We met them, literally, James Hardie flew them to Indianapolis to meet me because they said, you got to meet them. They're amazing. They work specifically with contractors and contractors that sell James Hardie siding. And so hopefully this is going to give you some insights and help you with your marketing for your company. So today I have Janet Mobley and Caitlyn West with me. Ladies, welcome.
Welcome. Hey, we'll correct our names.
I was going to correct her name. No, you said her maiden name. She's a married lady.
So I'm Caitlyn Noble.
That's right, Noble.
And Janet, we pronounce your last name?
Mobley, but I'll go with whatever you call
Same.
me.
You could say, hey, you. That intro was great.
My husband calls me dummy.
I almost erred on the side of caution. I was going to be like, Janet and Caitlyn.
Leave it in. Don't edit any of it out.
We're so happy to be here. Thanks for having us, Cory.
Thanks again, Cory. We're happy to be a guest.
No, thanks for joining me. I mean, we've spent years now. I think that was, I think we met in January of 2020.
Yep. We were in Indianapolis, January. We were getting ready to go on the James Hardie tour.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So James Hardie reached out to us and we had big plans. I was joking with all my friends that I was like a band and I was going to do a tour of the Midwest. Yes. And James Hardie was going to fly us to all these exotic states Iowa and Nebraska. And
then March of 2020 hit and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So did you make it anywhere past Indy or was it just Indy?
We went to Indianapolis and we went to Detroit.
Michigan. And I
feel like we went one other place. It's kind of a blur. But fun fact, we were on a Hardie funded trip coming back from Michigan about 3 days before they declared the pandemic. And Caitlyn and I were such knuckleheads. We were in the Detroit airport. We were rolling our eyes and we were like, how come nobody's here?
And I'm like, why are these ladies wearing masks on a plane?
We did. We were the idiots that were like, I don't understand what's going on.
And like the next week, we were like, I think we need to all work remote. I know. Janet's being crazy. Steve, can y'all hear me? Okay.
I just want to make sure that her mic doesn't go.
Okay.
No, you're good.
So yeah, we've been working together since the pandemic.
Yeah. Going on 5 years now. It's our 5-year anniversary, Cory.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize it's been 5 years. Where does the time go?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. It's good though. Life's good though.
Yeah, your company's doing great. So
yeah, we're so proud of what you've been able to do.
No, I appreciate it. I couldn't have done it without you. So I know I've heard the story, but to share with everybody else, you know, how did FatCat Strategies get started? What was like the inspiration for starting the company? I know the story. I love this story, but if you'd share it with us.
So I founded the company about 22 years ago. And in my late 20s, I just figured out I can't work in a big corporation in a cube my whole life. And that's what I was doing. I worked for IBM. I worked for Cisco. I worked for Glaxo. I had anyway, it was cube land. I didn't want to do it. So I struck out on my own, and I'll fast forward through a lot of the years. But for a long time, what we did was we worked with kind of any small business in our local geography. So we worked with all different kinds of small businesses. And then I got a client that was a bath remodeling client, installing what used to be Liners Direct, and then it became bath wraps, and then it became jacuzzi. And so that one client honestly changed my life because I was like, wow, this is really cool. The whole home improvement industry it really opened my eyes to a whole segment of the economy that, if I can cuss, is kind of badass. So I hired Caitlyn, 8-9 years ago, a while back.
I wasn't married then. So.
She was Caitlyn Weston. Hired Caitlyn, and she was early on as we were getting some of our first home improvement clients, and she knocked it out of the park. And so the two of us together really crafted a lot of the tactics that we, tried and tested on some of our early clients.
Still used
today. So I'm going to give Caitlyn a ton of the credit. So a long time we were like any small business. Then we decided in 2018, which is now however many years ago, like we love home improvement. We're going all in on home improvement. And from there, Caitlyn has really led a lot of the strategy around that. So, and she is now a co-owner of the company. So
also joined in, I think I became a partner in 2018. So we pivoted to home improvement fully.
Yep. And that's now exclusively what we do. So is that a good enough answer?
Yeah, that's great. No, that's awesome. And so what was it about contractors? Why home improvement? Why contractors?
So I'll go and you can go.
Okay.
Unless you want to go.
I'll just go first real quick.
Yeah. Go.
The one thing that Janet always said that meant the world, I think, to me and to the rest of the folks that work here, we're going to always have this need. People are going to always need to have somewhere to live. There's going to need, you keep calling it a box.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say to the staff, humans want to live and eat inside.
Right. Ideally.
They don't want to live, they want to be warm and
you
dry.
like to camp, but.
Yeah. I mean, I like to camp. But so on like sort of the economic side of it, it's something that everybody can understand. Everybody can understand that people want to live in houses, and those houses have to be built and maintained and beautified. And so there's just like a part of the economy that's just knocking it out. And the other thing that I really like is, going way back, coming from my corporate days, you just work on these kind of BS projects that you really had no idea if you were making a meaningful contribution or not, because it was all this kind of corporate speak. But, if you can help somebody generate a lead,
grow their business,
and that's going to turn into a reside, that's going to help them meet their revenue goal, those are like tangible numbers. And not only that, when we win, our clients win, and they're employing people, and they're employing people in the trades. And, even though we sit at a desk all day, I'm kind of passionate about the trades. I think the trades are what make this country great. And, I think it's just a real honor to be able to work behind the scenes so that we can make our customers successful enough that they can employ people, and those people are supporting their families. So it's just like a real, you can connect all the dots. If we're successful, people have jobs, they're fixing houses, and everybody's happy.
And y'all are also fun. I mean,
and you guys are fun.
I mean, like on the most like surface level, it is fun.
Some more than others. So.
I mean,
true.
Depending on the day too, right? But
usually, like going into a meeting, okay, they haven't generated leads, they have generated leads. The tone of that conversation. So
yeah. Well, and that's like the biggest thing to a contractor, right? It's like, when you talk to contractors about like, what do you need to help grow your business? Number one answer to every contractor, I need leads, more leads, right? And it's just like Janet said, right? Like leads employ people, they generate revenue, it makes the business grow, it makes the business thrive when we're getting a bunch of them. But, it's also like you said, like, I mean, it's an economy and it has ups and downs. And so we're not always going to have leads. So it's like, well, what do you do when leads are low? I think some contractors look at marketing like a slot machine where it's like, I'm going to put some money in, I'm going to play it. Oh, I didn't win, I'm ready to go to the next one. I'm going to put some more money in, I'm going to play it until they hit a jackpot, right? And it's like, that's not how marketing works, right? It's like, you got to stay invested until you win, right?
And that's exactly right. I mean, I think we're going to talk about this maybe a little bit later on, but the the clients that we work with that are the most successful are the ones who keep the agency relationship going, even through the hard economic times.
Yes.
I mean, like that is something no matter what, because you've got an agency who's owning your website, owning your PPC, owning your SEO presence, which is all the things.
The owners that we've seen be most successful, they don't look at it like a slot machine, one in, one out. They look at it like their goal is to build a business. And I think that's a very different goal than like a transactional, what are you doing for me tomorrow goal. If your goal is to build a foundation and a business that has value beyond what you can show up and do every day, those are the clients that we have the most success with, because those clients, it really is a partnership, because they're doing so much to make their business successful. And then when we come together, we play off of each other. Where we struggle, I mean, I'm going to use your slot machine analogy, are these contractors that think like, I can 100% offload this to somebody else. I have no role in it. I'm going to like put a coin in, pull the button, pull the thing, and see what happens.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to give you $5,000, and now you're going to give me $20,000 back in jobs, right? And it's like, well, it doesn't always work exactly that way.
Knew how to do that?
We wouldn't be in business.
But there's plenty of ads on social media though that it's like, we'll get you 100 leads in the next 30 days, and it's like, well, okay. And if you've done this long enough, like, well, what do those leads look like, right? Like, are they really generating revenue? And so it is, it takes time, right? Like it's something you got to nurture to grow your marketing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's all part of the relationship with an agency.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of the like nuts and bolts to it. I think there's, let's get into it. So, first off, I think one of the terms that gets thrown around a bunch that people are like, is SEO. Like, what is SEO? What does it mean? How does it work? What does a contractor need to know about SEO?
So there's a really simple definition, and I'm going to let Caitlyn say what it is. I mean, we could do 100 episodes about SEO. I think people would get bored. In the simplest terms, what is it?
It is truly how you show up on the internet. I mean, search engine optimization is what SEO stands for. So when you go to a search engine like Google
and you type something in,
it is how you are showing up on that search engine. And if your words, your business, your profile is optimized, then that is SEO. That's the most simple definition.
Yep.
And so like, it's a simple definition, but it seems to be a little more complicated though, right? Like, because it's like it's
side of things, yes.
Oh, on the technical side of things. So right now it is December 2024. The internet changes all the time, but in this year of our Lord that we're living in, Google is in charge of it. This calendar year, Google made 5,000 changes to their search algorithm. 5,000.
We did the math. That's over 13 a day.
Yeah, every day that search algorithm. So this super secret sauce that Google has
that we don't like.
And I'll skip to the end of this movie. Any vendor that tells you that they know exactly how Google works is not telling the truth. I mean, we're all doing best practices and we're doing all the things that we know how to do. But when there's an algorithm that's changing 13 times a day, holy moly.
So there's best practices that are tried and true that we will recommend and follow in terms of keeping content on your website updated, accurate,
right,
authentic.
So EAT is an acronym you may have heard. You may or may not have heard of EAT, EEAT.
Yeah.
Expertise, experience, authoritative, and trustworthy.
Right.
So if you can stop for a second and stop looking at yourself as a siding contractor, just stop for a second, put that hat down.
It's so hard to do though. Oh.
Put that hat down. You're not a siding contractor. You're just a dude and you have a problem to solve. Before we started recording, Cory, we were talking about going skiing. Right. So you're a guy who likes to ski. I like to ski. That's a problem you want to solve. Where am I going to ski today? you're going to use Google to solve that problem. And so you go to Google with a problem to solve. And the way that Google's algorithm, if we believe what they tell us, is it's going to favor those websites that have that high EAT. It's expert content, it's authoritative, it's trustworthy, and there's a good experience on the website, a good mobile experience, it loads fast. So if you are just a human using Google, what you're trying to do is solve a problem, and you want a useful solution to that problem. That is the simplest way to think about SEO.
SEO, right.
So you're not at its purest, at its best, you're not trying to trick anybody. You're trying to present the experience that you have, the knowledge that you have to help a homeowner.
Don't get me wrong. There were days where
When you could trick people.
where SEO was tricky and scammy and so forth. Those days are over.
Oh my Lord. I mean, I
So
remember
over.
10 plus years ago, we used to, I never did it, but we, the industry,
Right.
would stuff keywords
yeah.
in a footer and make the keywords the same color as the footer. So if your footer was blue, you'd make the keywords blue.
Oh, yeah.
So you were trying to trick Google into be like roofer, 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 roofer.
Yeah.
You can't keyword stuff anymore. You can't, all these black hat tactics. So, even though the algorithm is changing,
Yeah.
I think the best thing that your listeners can take away is bring to the table
Authentic.
expertise
Yes.
with a spirit in your heart that you're trying to help a homeowner.
How do they do that? Like, are they gonna do that with like good reviews? Are they gonna do that with like blog posts? Are they gonna do it with like a good looking website that's up to date?
All of the above.
Yeah. So on the technical side of things, I think there's a level where they may not be able to do much. On the written side, like without an agency.
Without an
agency, because there's some schema, there's words like schema markup
Yeah.
and yada, yada, yada. That
Getting all your meta tags right.
Yeah,
Making
that's-
sure all your images have alt tags.
that's fluffy. I think no matter what, if you have a website that has content that just makes sense,
Useful content.
and that is through blog posts, through just written content on your website, wherever it
Projects,
is,
before and after pictures.
featured projects, and then of course complement that with your reviews on your Google business profile. So,
I mean, if we were going to talk about a trick, and I'm going to give Caitlyn credit for this.
no memory of it.
This is sort of a trick. And this goes back to the partnership between an agency and the contractor. Talk about reviews. The best way to get reviews is not some sort of digital trick. It's doing a great job of installation.
Right.
And then you're standing there with Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner doing the walk around. And then you do your golly gee, Mrs. Homeowner, it would really help me out a lot if you'd review me on Google. Oh, shucks. I mean, I know Google's hard, but if you could do it while I'm standing here, it'd help me a lot. Okay, then you kind of guide the homeowner to mention the name of the town. If it's a little suburb like Zionsville, you're an Indy, but you want to install in Zionsville.
Sure.
So you want to get Mr. Homeowner to say, UHQ did an amazing job installing Arctic White James Hardie siding
Wow.
in my Zionsville home. And if they took it to the next level and mentioned like a super affluent neighborhood,
Wow.
now
It's over.
It's over.
I'm gonna have my production manager watch this. This is good. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the challenge, right? Like, I mean, me and Caitlyn have talked for years now about like, we gotta get reviews. And like sometimes getting reviews is like pulling teeth if you don't do it at the right time and do it in the right way. And even then, like some people are like, I don't leave reviews, And so it's like, yeah, exactly. Or like we had a customer recently where it was like, well, we'll help you set the Google account up. Well, then they never verified it. So then the review never even went up because they never verified their new Google account, So
And if we're talking about reviews and how they relate to SEO, Caitlyn, you probably have a little bit more insight on this. I know that Hardie partners with Guild Quality.
Well, so there's a big change coming. I'll let you go, but then I'm gonna pop it on you in case you don't know afterwards. But
Tell me, because what I've seen, and again, I'm gonna give Caitlyn all the credit. Like she's in the trenches every day. But my understanding, which I'm going to go ahead and be vulnerable and maybe embarrass myself. If Guild Quality is a separate website and your review is living there,
Right.
Google's not going to give it as much weight when it's trying to decide who they're going to show up, who they're going to rank on that search engine result page when somebody types in siding contractor near me.
So here's the big news. So they're going to announce this at the Hardie Summit coming up in the end of January 2025. So we're recording now. It's the beginning of December. This may not go live until first of the year. We'll see. But you get the sneak peek. Yeah. So so basically what they're doing is they're going to start so Hardie will have this like President's Award. And so they base it off of volume, or they use Guild Quality to like hand these awards out. So I got an email the other day from Mark Setti, who works with Hardie, high up guy there. I forget his exact role, but it was like, and I'd already heard part of the details before this email, but the email said, do you want to be considered for awards this year? You can be considered through Guild Quality, or you can be considered through your Google reviews. So I did enter, because we don't really do Guild Quality because we want the Google reviews, right? Like you're saying. And so
reviews is because of this SEO strategy.
Yeah. So the rumor is, and I don't know all the details at this point, I've just heard a bit through the grapevine, that they're revamping the Contractor Alliance program. They're going to call it the Hardie Alliance program, and they're going to start promoting contractors. And instead of just saying like part of the program is you need an 80% customer, I think it's 80 or 90% customer, I think it's 90% customer satisfaction rating through Guild Quality, they're going to also base it off your Google reviews. So I don't know the exact details behind this with Hardie, but Hardie's basically starting to say, yeah, like we get it. Google reviews are really important too.
Much more important.
Much. I mean, I say yeah, because
they are.
I get that the Guild Quality, like from a consumer, it's more of a vetted process, that supposedly like this is an actual company that's doing their dead level best to make sure this is a real customer reviews, where any joker with a Google profile can go on and leave you a terrible review. So like,
because the skepticism is real. Like we have homeowners all the time that are like I had somebody recently that was just like, I was like, whoa, what are you going to be looking for when you choose a contractor? I'm going to check out the reviews and make sure they're real. I can tell by looking through your reviews if they're real or not. And then like the other day I was on one of these like chatter groups on Facebook, and there's this disgruntled employee salesman from a roofing company, and he like airs them out. He's like, yeah, so part of our job at our roofing company is you have to first go on and leave like 5-star reviews, and then ask all your family to like leave 5-star reviews for you. So it's like, it is like this. Yeah, the employees, so they could build up their Google reviews as the roofing company. And I've heard many things like this. So, I mean, it's like this concern from the homeowner side of like, are these reviews real? And like the third party review companies like Guild Quality should be like this like vetted quality review. But like at the same time, like I'll be candid, like there can be review gating, right? Where it's like, yeah, like, so it's like, how accurate is it at the end of the day? I don't know, but I know that like you can't really, I've never been able to take down a Google review. My understanding is you can't take down Google reviews. So I see a ton of value.
It's like shouting into an empty forest after all humans have died, and you're the only living soul on the planet, and you're sad and forlorn, and you're like, please take my review down. Nobody gives a shit. They're not taking it down.
Yeah. I've got one. Somebody gave me a 1-star review out of like Portland, Oregon, and it says nothing on it. There's like no words. And I'm like,
you're like, I'm in Indianapolis. I'm not going to install a job in Portland.
So back to tips though. You should reply though. Like, and I know Cory, like we've always talked about that, but like if you're listening and you have a review that you agree with or disagree with, in the most positive way,
as the owner, right?
Thank them for taking that time from Portland, Oregon, for leaving that 1-star review, and tell them they're very wrong.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you on that, because like recently I've put together like a new template for like our responses to people's reviews, trying to get better at that. Cause it's always a challenge. I mean, I've heard we want to do it as quickly as possible, but to go back to what Janet said, like you were saying like, hey, if you can get that homeowner to be like in Zionsville in this neighborhood, and we put on James Hardie Arctic White. Well, if I'm doing some of that in my review, does that optimize some of the SEO to make it more searchable there then as well?
1000%.
Okay. Yeah. And so we've been starting to do that more with our template, where it's like, hey, what was the problem? What was the product that we used? And then what was the ultimate solution? But also trying to involve those colors, because I feel like with James Hardie, like one of the biggest questions is like colors. So people are like searching, like I want, Booth Bay blue or whatever, iron gray. Yeah, Arctic white. And I want to see a picture of a house. And so then they start searching, right?
So if you allow us to nerd out for a second, if you have to kind of dissect the search engine algorithm. So you've got a website, Cory, you've got your UHQ website, and then you have your Google business profile. Those are two different properties that Google can index. So if somebody is searching for siding contractors in Zionsville, there's two different things that Google can surface to a user to show them a solution to their problem. One thing is your website, and the other thing is your Google business profile. And so when you are getting people to put specific phrases in your review, that's content in your Google business profile, which is attached to the maps. And Google is going to rank that because it's their own property. That's their thing. That profile, frankly, belongs to them, even though you claim it. It's their tech.
It is, yeah.
So they're going to lean on showing their tech above showing your website, especially on a mobile phone. So even though we are all every day fighting as hard as we can fight on behalf of our clients to get our clients' sites to rank high, we also have to fight to get your Google business profile to rank. And that's why we do that in the reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. And is that there's also like other things you can do in that business. I think you do it for us, where it's like, there's other things that can happen in that business profile, like posting.
Absolutely.
There's other things that you do without me geeking out, because it obviously better than me, but it's like, I know you're constantly, it's a never ending battle, right? Like, I mean, there's so many different ways to improve the SEO, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like always, if you're already posting on social media, go ahead and post on your Google business profile, and you can keyword stuff. We used that term earlier, your Google business profile, for some of those words that you may not be able to on your website, to help Google push you up higher.
You're basically telling Google what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're doing gutters, if you're doing siding, if you, I don't know, let's say you're installing fences, you want all of those things configured in your Google business profile. Now, naturally, they're going to be on your website too.
Sure.
But what we find, especially when we start working with new clients, if they haven't worked with an agency before, maybe they've claimed their profile and they've done all this stuff on their website, but they haven't noted on their profile that they install gutters.
Right. No.
And so then the Google doesn't know this company is a solution provider for gutter installation.
And would you consider that like let's say you're working with a newer contractor and they haven't really done a lot with their Google profile. How important is it for them to really build some of that SEO up before they even start to kind of go after their PPC, so they have some type of like organic search on the front end?
My favorite thing. So important, because, and we'll jump into PPC, but your PPC will not perform well if you do not have the written content to support where you're driving your ad.
Yeah. So and so let's move on to PPC. So what is PPC? First off.
Yeah. It stands for pay per click, which is kind of a dated term at this point because there's so many different bidding tactics, but it's the name that we've all come to call it, PPC. So where SEO is search engine optimization. Back in the day, we'd say SEO is free, but let's be honest, it's not free because your time is not free.
Right.
If you're doing it yourself. And if you're paying an agency's not free. So it's an organic result that's not part of their paid advertising platform. So PPC, for those who may not know the difference, if you get on a desktop computer or a phone and you search on something, restaurants or, car washes or siding contractors, just take a moment before you click on anything and look for some indications as to whether or not the thing you're about to click on is an ad or what we call an organic result. And the ads will always be denoted, and Google changes that. I think right now it says sponsored.
Right.
Is that what it says right now?
Sponsored, and there will be ad. I mean, even on the map pack, you can sponsor that.
So
too.
what is PPC? PPC is you set up an advertiser account with Google and you feed it money like the hungriest slot machine you've ever seen. And then you set up all of your parameters, and your parameters are geography. Cory, you're in Indianapolis. You really want to target Zionsville. That would be a geographic targeting. We can also exclude. You don't want to go south of the highway below certain, then we exclude those zip codes. So we include and exclude where on the planet we want the ads to show up. Then we make a list of what are the search terms when people type in those search terms, siding contractor near me, do you want your company to show up for it? And so it's a combination of search terms, geography, and then a little bit of demographics, but you can go way deeper. Time of day.
Right. I mean, you can do household income.
Yeah.
Homeowner, renter. So that's the setup of pay-per-click.
Yeah.
And we're talking not Facebook, Google, Bing.
That's paid search.
That's paid search. I mean, you could go into this is exploding. The Google LSA, the local
service
which has
ads.
been great, which I think is great. I think if you're not in it, you should be in it. I mean, it's helped us get some great leads for sure. So just to kind of break it really basic is, so it's when we look at SEO is the more organic side of things.
Yep.
And then when we look at PPC, this is your paid ads side of thing.
PPC can be, you have a lot more control over it. You get to dictate.
That's a good way to say it.
I'm just going to throw some stuff out there. Let's say you don't install gutters. You never want to install gutters. And you've been getting some gutter leads and they waste your time. On your PPC account, you can list out what do you want to show up for when people search on something. So it would be siding, Hardie, fiber cement,
Arctic white,
whatever those words are. It's a long list. So you say, check, yes, I want my ad to show up when someone searches on that. And then X, no. If somebody's looking for driveway paving,
repairs. Cory, we've gone back and forth about bidding on
roof leak. If you don't want to do small repairs, on the PPC side of things, you can exclude those search terms so your ad won't show up. On the SEO side of things, it's much harder.
I mean, say that you used to install gutters and somebody left a review, back to the review. HQ did an amazing job on my home. They did my roof, siding.
Or they did a small repair. If they said small repair in your review, you're going to get those small repair calls forever.
So that's organic. But on the paid side, I really like what you're saying about the exclusion side of the services.
Yeah, you can be really specific. You could say, I don't want my ads to run on the weekends. I mean, that's a decision that you can make.
I'm going to be closed over Christmas. I don't need paid leads to come in that I am not going to call back within the next 5 minutes. I mean,
right. So with PPC, you can turn it on, you can turn it off. SEO is more like eat your vegetables. Eat your vegetables and do your exercise. You're doing it for longevity, for health purposes. It's not overnight. You're not going to lose weight overnight. That's SEO. You just put in the time and you'll get results back. But it's harder to be very specific with it. But even excluding the locations. I mean, that's one of the things that we end up talking the most about. zip
Yeah.
codes.
Yeah. And so it's like, look, either way, you need to be handling your SEO, you eat your vegetables right to stay in shape. But it's like, well, if you really want to get in shape, then you could go to the gym and take some PPC, right? Hire a trainer, and all of a sudden you're going to put in more effort. It's going to cost a little more because you got to pay for the gym, you got to pay for the trainer, but you're going to, you can even go higher, right? Like you could buy those fancy machines that like zap you, and like you could spend as much money as you want with PPC, right? So it's definitely important though. Like if you want to grow, it's going to be hard to grow as much without PPC, right? It's become very prevalent.
The other point I wanted to make about PPC, and I'm sorry I stepped on your no one can talk.
It's all good.
And hand the mic back to you, but I did want to say this. Google built this machine
Right.
that we all know and love, and they get to say which parts of it they're going to sell. Years ago, I think you could get maybe everything you needed from organic results. But because if you picture that search result either on your phone or on your desktop, it's like a rectangle. They've sold the top third of the rectangle.
Yes.
You ain't going to get there organically. If you want to sit at the top, you got to pay to play.
Maybe even half now.
It might be half.
When you originally came to Indy, you guys did kind of like this demo thing for a bunch of contractors too. And I remember you telling me this is 5 years ago, right? You're like, yeah, this is what it used to look like, but now it's not like that anymore. And like, for sure, like if you're Google, you want to make money, right? Like you're publicly traded, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your stakeholders, you got to return profits. So why would you just have contractors SEO do all the work and that's the only thing that's going to happen? They need to make money. And I think you pointed it out during that presentation where it's like, well, yeah, they've changed the way they're showing the ads and a lot of people don't even realize sometimes like, oh, I clicked an ad. I just Googled siding contractor. I didn't realize I clicked on an ad. I thought I just like found you organically.
No, absolutely. I think, knowing what you're advertising for, knowing those keywords, whether you're doing it yourself or an agency's doing it, you have to be aware that if you are bidding on siding, there's a lot of repercussions that can come if you don't have those exclusions, and I think that's
Like
important.
what?
Like, I mean, siding, you could get like
Small repairs.
you could get something along the lines of, I'm just like looking for pictures of siding, examples of siding, like,
And then you're going to pay to have somebody look at your pictures.
yeah. So that's super important. And there's also levels of the budget and how that should be spent. I mean, like Cory, you said, I mean, it's not free. Like pay per click. You are paying per keyword, per click, per lead, really, whether it's a phone call or a form submission, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's why this keyword list is so important. That's why the ad copy is so important. That's why the landing page that you're driving those ads to.
Why don't you explain a little bit about how quality scores work? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
is
kind of where you were getting at.
Yeah.
But like in the most basic terms, lay out what that means.
So, I mean, Google's going to hold every single one of your ads, every single one to a quality score. And again, who knows if it's going to change or not. But right now it's 0 out of 10. 1 meaning you've got a keyword. I'm just going to keep doing like siding company, and you're driving an ad. So that keyword, you click on it and it's going to a landing page about roofing. Google is just going to say that's not a good quality score, as it should, and it's not going to show your ad. And then you can be all grumpy and be like, well, why is my siding keyword not showing up?
That's because you don't have a siding page on your website.
Exactly.
You're probably going like, duh. That what she just described, we see all the time.
Yeah.
When we inherit accounts that either somebody's been managing on their own or, sometimes I'm not throwing shade at other agencies, but whatever, by hook or by crook, we get a new account and we get into their Google Ads account and like sin number one would be to have all these different ad groups, one for roofing, one for siding, one for gutters. Every single ad goes to the homepage.
Oh, that is the
Every single
whoever
ad
is
goes to the
listening to
homepage.
this, make sure your ads don't go to the homepage.
For sure.
It's like the matching game. Like mahjong, this shape should match this shape. If somebody is searching on a car wash near me, they're going to search on the words car wash near me. They're going to look for an ad that says car wash. And when they click on it, they want to see a page with a picture of a car being washed. You need to draw that like dead obvious line, and that's where you get a better quality score.
That's right.
And so it's like also, I think what you're talking about too is like in keywords in general, right? So it's like you can rank for a keyword, let's say like siding contractor, Carmel, Indiana, organically at a certain level. And then based off that, you know, you can also do pay-per-click for siding contractor, but you're probably going to do better with your pay-per-click if your SEO is ranking higher. Is that correct?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
And so, so it's like the keywords, like you're saying, it's like, how can you build those up, right? It's like that constant, like, yeah, I want to use the PPC so I can get huge muscles tomorrow, but we don't get huge muscles tomorrow. We got to eat our vegetables and our protein and whatever to build them up on the SEO side first, or at the same time, right?
And we've seen some of the like best ranked like SEO success stories are for us. I don't know that they've been keywords. They're more like a long question answer pair.
Oh yeah.
How much does it cost to replace siding on a 2,500 square foot house? I mean, like a really specific question. And sometimes like we as an agency, I mean, we're always putting content out there that, you know, the goal is for it to be expert, authoritative, trustworthy. And then sometimes we'll just strike on something and we end up organically ranking for this very specific. At some point, somebody decided they've got a 2,500 square foot house and they wanted to get it siding on it, and they've put in a search term, and now you've got this one blog post from 3 years ago that ranks for it.
We call that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. And so it's like a long tail, that's called a long tail search term. It's a long question. It's very specific. It's not going to go to your homepage. And it might not even get a ton of traffic, but man, it's a sweet spot. And then you have to think about like on your website, what are all the opportunities for somebody to convert on that page?
Yeah.
Show them a phone number. Give them a form.
Yeah, have a place to convert.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. I think we're going to talk about that too. I think no matter what, whoever you're working with and running your PPC ads, or you're not running PPC ads, if and when you do, there are tools out there where you can track a physical phone call or a physical form submission back to an ad. And that is a leveled up version of something we do. I know we do it for you guys, where we're able to quickly say, okay, that ad produced that lead and that lead went on to sell. Those tools are out there. So don't just run PPC blindly. I really, really would encourage anybody to make sure they're tracking
lead
actual
source tracking.
Conversions back to real leads.
Yeah. And I think it's like it's like one of the last questions we're going to say later is like, what's a red flag contractors should look for when, you know, working with marketing companies? I think number one is tracking, right? Like you've got to have the tracking, like the most important thing. And I think it's like you said, like there's so many ways to track it. Now you guys do an amazing job of it, I think. So it's like, yeah, what ad ran, what got it, what's going to be working well moving forward.
They got recordings of phone calls.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. So, okay. So let's move on to having an up-to-date website. So like we talk about SEO, and I think this is one of those parts that gets confusing for maybe me or like a contractor or somebody like at an entry level of like trying to get it all set up is like, well, I thought if I have good SEO, that means that like I have an up-to-date and good essential website, right? Like that may not be the case. Like, and like, I think the other thing that I used to misunderstand when I first got into contracting was, well, somebody built me my website. It already has all the SEO built into it. I don't really need any more SEO, right?
I like to use a lot of metaphors. if you think about the offline world, you could build a beautiful store. I don't know, you're selling camping gear, and it is the best like outdoor store you've ever seen. But it is on a country road in a low population town in the middle of Oklahoma that nobody's ever heard of. Do you expect a lot of foot traffic in that store? The answer is no. So that would be like you built a whiz-bang website in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. On the flip side of that, you could build a really crappy store on a high traffic retail thoroughfare that's got restaurants and bars and it's the place to be. Your store looks like you're going to get stabbed if you go in it.
Yeah. Don't go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you might get hepatitis in the bathroom. So that would be like, somehow, and I don't even know if this second example would be possible, somehow by magic, you've been able to rank really well for a good search term. But when somebody clicks on it, they're like, ugh, get me out of here. I'm in a bad neighborhood. So the two things have to go together. Just because you built a website doesn't mean it's going to rank. And just because you rank for something doesn't mean that your store is appealing enough for somebody to buy anything.
Yeah.
And updated and maintained.
Yeah.
I mean, we've hit websites, the client's like, or the prospect might be, I'm not getting leads. Like, well, you got content that hasn't been updated since the beginning of blog post. Like,
oh yeah. Like, my fave is when somebody calls us and like right there on their homepage, it'll be some like award that they won in 2009.
Or it's December and they've got spring savings happening now.
Oh, we had a prospect within the past 2 months that was like giving us a bunch of lip, and in the meeting, like in the sales meeting, I was like, let me share my screen.
It is winter.
I was like, okay, it's the holiday season and you've got spring sale plastered across the top of your website.
I mean, again, we're more in the weeds. I guess like we know what to look for. My mother may look right past that and not care, but keep your website updated. Just because you have a website, the content needs to be updated, and Google actually likes updating the content.
So there's the human element and then there's the algorithm element. If you are not actively adding content to your website, then you're sending these computer signals to Google that this is an unattended store. There's a tumbleweed rolling down the street. Ain't nobody there. The little sign swinging in the wind. Nobody's home.
Yeah.
When you don't keep your website updated, that's what Google's algorithm thinks. Abandoned store.
And so what are things that need to be done to update it, right? Like, what does it mean? Like, I know I get the whole, like, okay, don't run a spring thing in December, but like, what is it that needs to happen? Is it like blog posts? Is it like, like I know I'm asking this because I already know the answer because you guys do this for me on a monthly basis. So I'm not like asking blindly. I'm just trying to give them a little more idea of like, maybe like what it is that can do it. Because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I had a website built. I spent, $10,000, $20,000 having my website built. Like, I can't imagine that I need to pay somebody hundreds or thousands of dollars a month to keep updating my website. But it's like, hey, FYI, you do, right? But like, what is it they need to do to keep it updated, right?
I mean, easy. I say it's easy, but you've got to keep it updated with written content, like you said, whether it is blog post or, I mean, if you're not going to post blogs often, at least remove the feature of the date. So if I'm going to the blog and I see you haven't written a blog since 2018, I'm going to be like, I don't know if this company is in business. So keeping blogs updated, content updated. If you can, add photos of projects you've completed. Tell those stories of those customers. So photos in written content is just some simple ways to keep things updated.
Yeah, because that's something you do for me, right? It's like we do the featured projects, and every month when we meet to talk, it's like, well, what projects do you have, Cory, that like,
Steven, go.
Yeah.
Be honest, we're just being.
Right.
On the scary technical side of things, like, yes, you've got to keep photos updated. You've got to keep your blog updated just to keep that face alive. You need to have somebody testing the forms and the phone numbers on your website. Like, I mean, you, like, whoever's listening right now, like, pause and, like, if you haven't tested the form on your website, go do it right now. Like, make sure somebody's receiving that.
Oh my gosh. Horror story from that. I think I maybe have told you guys this one, but like years ago, I had a company that for like
Start sweating.
extended period of time, I wasn't getting any leads. And it's a national company. And I was like, and all of a sudden I was like, I met with them, hadn't met with them in months. And, you know, I was a newer contractor. They just didn't have that system set up. And I'm like, you know, like, I think what you guys are doing terrible. Like, I'm not getting any leads. They're like, oh, I forget what it was. It was an extreme amount of leads, like something I added up to be worth almost $1 million in business to me, where it was like a ton of leads. And they're just like, oh, you weren't getting them? Oh, there was a glitch in the system and you know what? You just weren't getting them. And like, I was infuriated. I totally fired them. And I was like, time for a new marketing company because they aren't doing it. Right. And that's huge. Like if you don't know if they're coming through or not, right? Like, and like, hopefully you're getting leads on a regular basis, right? Like, you know, like at the beginning, it's tougher, right? Like I remember when I started and like, I was just happy to get a lead, you know, because I was so new and like, I'm trying to build a website or I had a cheap website built and, you know, we just don't have a lot of SEO or a lot of reviews. And so like early on, it was uncommon for me to get leads at first, you know, but it's like, now it's like being in business almost 10 years. It's like, yeah, if we're not getting a lead, you know, averaging a lead a day, then it's like, you know, but again, you guys check that for us. But I think you're right. Like making sure it works is huge, critical.
I mean, this is very low tech. But I mean, it is Friday. We're sitting in our office in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we've got a bunch of cubes in the back of in the big area that we call the intern area. And there are legit interns, and part of their job is to go and fill out forms on our clients' websites. And it is as low tech as you can get, but it is a live, breathing human being at a computer that is filling out a form to make sure. And, you know, we built the forms. So,
oh, yeah,
like,
we maintain the forms.
We should have, but like, as the sort of a paranoid last.
I mean, we know, like you said, it's a make or break.
Yeah.
Like that's
so we actually pay interns. That's not the only thing they do. They do a lot of other things. But one of the many recurring tasks is, so Cory, if you've ever gotten an email notification from FCS Test.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see them because I'm not in that part as much anymore, but yeah, exactly. And definitely before the weekend. I love how you do it on Friday because it's like, when do most of your leads come in? Over the weekend. And then it's like, come Monday, you know, if the answering service or Calendly didn't automatically set it for us, it's like, yeah, we're going to be setting leads from the weekend. And if they didn't work, then yeah, it's, you know, it certainly drives the acquisition costs and the cost per lead up if they're not coming through, right?
Can I jump in and talk about something? You just said something that triggered a thought. You said answering service. This is sort of a pet peeve of mine, especially with contractors just getting started. I know it's hard to start a business. I totally get it. Totally get that. But when we talk about like online marketing, digital marketing success, a huge factor in that is somebody on your end answering the phone.
Lord, yes.
We have seen so many times contractors come in and beat us up. And then because we have the tracking installed, we'll go and listen to the recordings. And either the phone just rings and rings and rings and rings and rings, or, you know, there was a client that was way out in the Midwest. They hired a young lady to answer the phones who was the quietest person I'd ever heard. And so she would be like, like, what?
Like, why am I driving advertising? Like, why am I driving paid traffic if nobody's going to answer the phone? I mean,
and then we had another one. I know I keep mentioning gutters. I'm pretty sure it was a gutter. I'm not naming any names.
I've just blacked it all out.
This is like up towards the Canadian border, one of those states.
Ooh.
They actually did gutter installation, but they didn't bother to train the person who answered their phone. So they answer the phone, hello, blah, blah, blah company. And the person says, yeah, I'm really interested in getting my gutters replaced. And they're like, I don't think we do gutters.
Well, cool. Well,
We're like, great, so happy we ran an ad for it and got it to convert.
Yeah, you just paid $125
For
that.
you, and you paid the woman answering your phone to tell them. And you know, I don't think that's the person who's answering the phone's responsibility.
Oh no!
When you hire that person, you need to give them a script and you need to train them.
Yeah,
This is branding. I mean, I know we're jumping into but that's a part of
branding,
of the branding and of who the business is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and that communication, which is huge. I mean, you have met plenty of the people that work with me, because it's like, okay, we're going to run this campaign. Well, hey, let's fill in the people answering the phone so they understand this is the campaign getting run, so they're on the same page. But I definitely think you're right. It's like, and you know, it is tough because, like, just talk about answering service for a second. I've hired multiple answering services over the years. Some are better than others. The one I have now, amazing. I love them. I think they're great. Like, I've had zero complaints about them. I don't feel like any calls fall through. But I've also hired some that are not great. So it's like, even though you do hire one, it's like, make sure you're like kind of like checking on them to make sure that.
How much time did you have to spend their scripts and their responses?
You know, so like we have our script, and so then it's kind of tough, right? Because like you don't want to make it too complicated for an answering service, because it's not your average person answering every day. So like for me, it's like setting them up to be able to schedule is like the most important thing. Like my advice for an answering service is give them as little information as they need to gather just to set the appointment and get off the phone before they sound stupid. Because otherwise they're like, you try to get them to do our normal script, they can't do it. And it's like a different person. They're reading off a monitor and it like takes forever. It's like, just get the name, address, phone number and set an appointment. Right. And even if you don't know if we do the work, which is one of the biggest things I tell them now, is like, even if you don't think we do the work, schedule the appointment anyways, which is a big deal.
So well, Cory.
Well, it's like, you know, it's just like you miss a one lead, right? It's like you said, like if somebody, cause like they do come in over the weekend and it sounds crazy, but these homeowners or business owners, but usually a homeowner on the weekend, still expects us to like answer and like have had somebody working and like wants that person to know all the details. Yeah, like, you know, like Billy hit a baseball into my siding and he broke it. And so we need this like replaced now. It's like, oh, it's Sunday. Yeah, at 9 a.m. Sure, absolutely. We'll send somebody right out. It'll be free. You know, like that's what they want to hear. But you just need to be able to get them set, right? And like, you know, I think that's like one thing we kind of went through not that long ago, maybe a year or two ago, where it was like, we went through some changes in the business and it was like, how do we set up more of these automated appointment setting ways, right? Where it's like, if they fill out a lead form, that we send them a link that allows them to schedule an appointment, which is like, so the more we can do to capture, because it's like we've talked about so far, it's like, if you're doing SEO, you're paying for that. If you're building a website, you're paying for that. If you're getting PPC, you're paying for that. So you need to make sure that when any lead comes in from any of those, that you're capturing it. Yeah.
Like a little precious egg.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know when it's going to be like a $100,000 job or more, you know? I mean, you never know like what is going to come in.
I'm going to start interviewing you. So when you decided to do like to send out let the homeowners schedule their appointments, did you just decide ahead of time, okay, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between these times, did you connect it to like one sales rep's calendar?
I was a part
Do you
of
have
that.
multiple?
Yeah, we're not as big of a company, so yeah. So we like, I think you can set it up like Calendly is more detailed now, like to where you can link up multiple based off what they do, but then it makes it more complicated that the person scheduling has to do it correctly. So like for us, it's easier just to set it to one calendar and then have our people call every lead that got set through it, right? So it's like, it's just an extra touch point. Like people talk about like, how many times do you need to touch that customer before they're going to buy? And like, I think I heard a statistic one time, it's 7. Like you need to talk to them 7 times before they'll actually, 9, whatever. So it's like, the more the better at the end of the day. So it's like, let them just schedule like whatever that takes and then figure out how to make it work. And like, and sometimes people aren't happy. Like we've had it where like we get like double booked or they book for something that person doesn't do. So then we got to kind of move them to somebody else. They'll be fine. They'll live. They'll get over it. Yeah. Like
I guess that was really kind of the root of my question. If you've got multiple reps and then you've got one who's really strong in one area, or maybe will drive to one area versus another area, if you've got a big service area, that's where I kind of got tangled up in the details of like
the configuration.
How are you configuring multiple sales reps that either have multiple specialties or multiple geographic areas?
And with some of that, the geographical is almost impossible. Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible with the geographical. It's easier to do per trade. So if it's like, okay, this guy sells roofing, or this guy or gal sells roofing, guy or gal sells siding, gutters. Okay, then you can do it per trade. I don't know that Calendly, which is what we use, I don't think they do it geographically. So I don't think you can do that. So it just does come down to like, get them set the appointment, leave it as open as you can to get it set, and then reach out to them. Like we have had people like set, and it's like not even in our service area. Like we had one a couple days ago. It was like a broken window 2 hours away from here on like the state line. And it was like, went ahead and scheduled. So it's like, yeah. So the appointment setter, the biggest point of that is then the appointment setter that works for us in the office needs to look at all of those when they come in the next day or after the weekend and be like, did this get set up correctly? Because at the end of the day, it's like, the worst customers are the ones that are like, want it for like cheap, for nothing tomorrow. And the good customers are the ones, and the ones that are like the best customers are like, yeah, it's all good. Like, I understand. Like, I'm understanding. It's fine. So like, you even start to find out at that initial stage, like whenever we get down the road, it's like, oh, this person's going to be a nightmare. Well, they were a nightmare when they set the appointment all the way until we sold them the job. So like those people, like, it's like, if it gets set, as long as it gets set, and then you reach out to them and you say, you know what, we're sorry. The answering service double booked us. We just need to kind of find a different time that's going to work for you. A good customer is going to be like, yeah, I totally get it. Let's just move it. But that is still kind of complicated. Like there's way more tools than there used to be, I feel like.
Yeah.
But is it perfect? Not yet.
I love that you're telling your audience this message. Like, just get the leads in and then figure it out. Because we'll have clients that will kind of expect, because we're a digital marketing agency, that we've got this like NASA level appointment setting. And I'm like, okay, but you've got actual people that are going to have to run the appointments. And some of them might have, a sick kid one day. Like, things are going to happen.
I do think that's a good topic. There's a big misconception between a digital marketing agency who will generate leads because they manage your website, your SEO, your PPC, email, print, whatever it may be, and a lead aggregator. I think a lot of the industry, the home improvement industry, has mixed these terms
Absolutely.
To the point that we do often get prospects
I think we're lead aggregators.
Yeah, that we will like a Angie's. I mean, they think, oh, we are going to generate a lead for you and we are going to set it and
sell it for $185.
And then if it doesn't sell, there'll be some sort of reimbursement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge difference between the types of marketing. I mean, and I think the lead aggregators are a service that is absolutely necessary if
Yes.
you are not going to actively manage your website, if you're not going to actively run PPC.
Or in the beginning when you
Sure.
haven't built a brand yet and you're
That's
still
good.
trying to
Yeah.
get off the ground. Take those leads and like practice your sales pitch.
That's good.
Get your ducks in a row. But yeah, a lot of times I do all the sales for FatCat, and I've now, when I get a new prospect, one of the first things I say is, hey, just to make sure you're talking to the right person, if you think we're a lead aggregator, I can save you a bunch of time. But yeah, there's a big misconception in the industry with contractors, and I think contractors have been trained by those companies to think, going back to your slot machine analogy, that if they can find $185, they can get one lead and they're going to sell it for $100,000.
Yeah, and you know
that transaction.
And there's so many ads like as a contractor where they're like, we get inundated with these ads from these marketing companies that are like, I don't even know if they're marketing companies. I guess I don't really entertain them. I don't go to the sales calls for them. I don't ever like fill out my info, but they say stuff on these ads that are like, we will get you set appointments and you don't pay until you show up and you run the appointment. And it's like, okay, well, that makes it kind of convoluted because, like, are you my marketing agency? Like, what are you doing for me to get me to this point where you're just going to get me a set, you know, where like I'm actually setting in the person's house, able to see if it's a qualified lead. And so I do think that's kind of like based off what some companies are offering, like you said, or like the Angies, which most of those companies, from my understanding, sell the lead to multiple contractors. So like you said, like if you need to practice your sales pitch, like perfect, lead aggregator, you're going to be competing against other people. They will get you in the door more to practice. Also, like you said, if
you're going to be one of 5 in the door.
Absolutely. And if you're new, I mean, when I was new too, I took tons of those leads too, especially like a home advisor. It was like, yeah, I got to get in the door and I got to figure out how to differentiate myself because I've got competition. And some of these guys have been doing this for 10 years longer than me. You know, when I first started, I'm 2 years in business and they're like, hey, your company is great. I believe in you. But why would I choose you over the company that's been doing this for 10 or 15 years already? And it's like, yeah, that's important to go into those because you got to learn how to overcome that. If you're going to stay in business longer than 2 or 5 years, you got to figure out how to tell them why you're better than that company, whether it's like, well, they're a big giant company now and you're just a number to them. And, you know, whatever it's going to be, however you differentiate yourself. I'm not saying like lie, but it's like you got to figure out that. And that's good. But at the end of the day, like if you want to build a good brand, then you've got to have a marketing company that's building your SEO, that's running PPC ads that only come into you. Yeah, they may get quotes from other contractors, right? But it's like, how do they come to you? But at the end of the day, like you're saying, you also have to manage the lead once it gets to you, and Caitlyn knows this with me. Look, I'm not perfect. I've had headaches with it. Like they've had to pull out the recordings on me. They're talking about recordings a minute ago. They've done that on me. Like it's like you think it's all running perfect as a contractor, and then until you hear the recording, and then you're like, oh no.
She's going to crawl out of her skin.
I'm out of here.
She's going to have an out-of-body experience.
I don't want to hear
She made me listen to recordings coming into FatCat.
Oh, yeah.
So
I need to take some of my own medicine.
Oh, no. What happened? I want to hear.
The way our phone tree was set up is convoluted. But like we're not the same kind of business as you are. Like you need a certain number of leads. We have a much smaller number of clients with big.
It goes back to branding though.
It's
like
branding.
If there's an experience that you have built, however you've built it, to where somebody found you on the internet.
Right. Don't let them down when they call.
Don't let them down when they call. I love that.
Yeah. So let's talk about branding a little bit. We'll move on to, otherwise I'm going to keep you here all night on a Friday night. Sorry.
To talk to.
No, this is good. I'm loving it. So I made it a 2-hour time block because I was like, I know this isn't going to happen in an hour. So, all right. So branding, what is branding?
Oh, come on. You built the business. How'd you build the brand of FatCat?
Well, you made fun of me for talking too much.
I do it. Go. Branding's important. I can talk all day about digital. Where I find myself the most successful and our clients the most successful is when they have a brand that they have built and established. Their name, their business name is out in the community. They have yard signs. They have trucks maybe. They've built a face. So when somebody sees your business name in an ad, they know they've seen you before.
Right. I think with branding, I think a lot of people, especially new business owners, think that branding is logo and colors.
Sure.
And that's the beginning, the middle, and end of branding. I think that's probably one of the least important things. Like, make them be nice looking, but it's not going to make or break you. There's that visual component of pick a name, pick a logo, pick some colors, just stick with it. Use it consistently.
Please.
So the visual element is all that stuff you can see, the yard signs, the trucks, all of that. Then the digital components are what we've been talking about,
Right.
Your online presence. Then there are all the other elements, which is what we've also been talking about. How do you answer your phone? If you have an employee that's going to go to someone's house, are they clean? Do they smell?
Do they wear even a company shirt? Yeah, they're wearing the shirt, the hat, right?
Right.
Do they have a mullet?
Do they have a stain on their shirt? Did they show up late? So like that branding component is how people experience your business. And I'm going to give the credit where the credit is due. Again, our most successful clients, I give the clients all the credit because that brand is an extension of them. It's the business that they wanted to build. It's how they treat their customers. It's their reputation because they do a good job of installing.
It makes our job easier.
They've priced it well in the market. They're not the cheapest. They may not be the most expensive. All of that is branding. And a marketing agency can't do that part of it for you.
Yeah.
They can make the core of the thing that you are look better, but I can't give somebody that core.
Yeah. And I think you really hit it on the head well, because it's like, and Caitlyn's worked with us for a long time. So like, I always keep bringing Caitlyn back into this, but it's like, it's like a positioning. You're like, you can take it and you can help us, but it's like, how do you want to be positioned? I felt like, we get to that question a lot when we meet regularly. It's like, well, how do you want to go about this, Cory? Right. And like, yeah, I've definitely been like, okay, I'm going to position myself as mainly a Hardie contractor, right? Which comes through when we talk about our PPC campaigns. And I'm like, hey, Caitlyn, I want full replacement Hardie jobs. That's what I want to add for it. And how do we build the SEO? We build it around that same thing. But then it's like, well, who is the brand, right? Like, well, we're UHQ, we're unrushed, honest quality. We're going to take our time, be honest, give you a quality job, right? Like, does that come through over the phone? Does that come through when the sales guy comes out? Does that come through in our sales PowerPoint? Does that come through in our customer reviews? Like we are very fortunate to have our customers be like, they mean what they say when it stands for UHQ, right? It's like, that's the brand we've built. And I think you're 100% right. It's like sometimes I think the contractor needs to put a little more time into figuring out what that is. And that's frustrating because I just want to pay you to do all my marketing, right? Like, but I think it's like, you've got to put the effort in, because if you don't put the effort in and you're not maintaining your brand, it can't just be like, I do siding.
Yeah.
Well, and I do think there's a flavor, and I know we're doing James Hardie in a box right now. And I think, like, as the marketing agency, I mean, it's our responsibility to know that James Hardie is a more expensive, nicer siding product. So when we are writing content, when we are publishing pictures, when we are doing ads,
we have to know the positioning of the manufactured product.
Exactly.
As well as your position in the marketplace, installing that manufactured product.
We know it's higher end. We know.
But like, James Hardie brings that product, that premium product, to the table.
Yes.
And then Cory and UHQ bring unrushed, honest quality to the
Correct.
table. And then a good marketing agency will amplify those things that are already true.
This is a sexy product, and
Yeah.
it's not going to burn in a fire.
Yeah, it's
Woodpeckers.
windproof, no woodpeckers. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Maintenance free.
we can talk about that.
But we can't.
Yeah.
I have done this for so long, and even before we started working with home improvement contractors, a lot of times new small business owners will think that an agency or a marketer can do that work for them. And we can't. We are amplifying and promoting the thing that you are, but we can't define that for you.
There are companies, I think, out there that specify in it, but like on the digital side of things, like I know.
I think like an example I could think of that would honestly be kind of creating a brand would be these companies that like invent drug names.
Okay.
You know, they're going to completely invent a word that nobody's ever heard of before, and then. But even that, like the drug has to exist.
That's true.
And it
That's
has
true.
to cure some
That's true.
ailment. So the marketing company didn't invent the drug. They might have invented the name
And the colors.
and the TV commercial with the guy pushing the lawnmower
Sure.
doing a little dance, but they didn't invent the drug.
Fair. That's
So-
fair.
Well, and I think it's like when I talk to contractors about helping them grow their Hardie businesses, it's like, hey, well, I help you price, sell, and install it. You know, like, which do you need help with? And they're like, I got that. I just need more leads. Right. And it's like, okay, that's cool. So what does your branding look like? Right. And that's why, like, one of the things I did, and you guys know this, is I recently became a Story Brand guide. Right. And Story Brand is one of those companies that will help you figure out your brand. Right. If you get a Story Brand guide like myself. And so that's like one of the things I do to help contractors is like, hey, when you sign up with me, I'm going to help you identify what your brand is so you can have a better idea of like who you are as a company, because contractors are different, right? Like even though like two contractors sell Hardie siding, well, they can have different brands and who they are. And so I think it's important for them to know that so they can really like push their product. And that's what I try to help them do, right? Is like, yeah, you want more leads. Well, you got to know who you are to generate those leads.
And when
Correct.
you're working as a Story Brand consultant with your clients, like what's the other side of that conversation look like? Are they just like blink, blink, what?
Well, so it's designed to pull it out of them, right? So like we spend about an hour, it's like an hour set of questioning to figure out like, hey, answer these questions for me. And through those questions, we can figure out who they are. And so then it kind of, okay, we plug that into a formula, and then I give them what we call a brand script. And it tells them, you know, and there's like 7 parts to that brand script. And so we ask them a series of questions to get it, because they don't necessarily, they may think they know, but it's easier to say, well, hey, here are the important things. And then this is your brand script, because a lot of contractors, the biggest mistake contractors make with their branding is they make it all about them. And it's like, I am Superman, the handyman or Hardie contractor. And that's fine. People want, 2 biggest things homeowners want: trust and communication, right? But the experience is about the homeowner, or as we talk about in Story Brand, they're the hero, right? And so we need to make it all about them. Like, what are they looking for? And so how do we become a person that guides them through the process rather than the person who's going to
You're
be the
helping
solution?
a homeowner achieve a dream of what they want their home to look like.
Right, exactly. Because that's the ultimate thing.
Yeah, and they have a dream for whatever reason. They want to be the nicest house on the block. They've always, like, they've got a visual in their mind of what they're, when they pull in the driveway, what they see, and you're helping them get that.
Right. And that comes out of like incorporating that into your sales process too, right? Where it's like, okay, what's their goal? Well, their goal is new siding. Okay, that's their goal, but why is that their goal? Well, is it because they want to update their look because they want to feel better? Is it because they need to protect their home because woodpeckers are destroying it? Like, it's not really about the look. I just need a durable product or something that's low maintenance, right? Well, then Great. Now we're getting into like more of the problems. Like, well, your problem is you have woodpeckers or you have rotten wood. How does that make you feel? Oh, it doesn't make you feel very good about your house. Why? It's really important to understand, like, what is your target customer feeling so you can understand the true solution. And then you can say, hey, look, I've helped thousands of customers that have had rotten wood and it made them feel embarrassed about their home. And not only that, like, I understand where you're coming from and like I help customers like you all the time, but at the same time, James Hardie Siding also trusts me. I'm part of their Alliance Contractor program. And so they have certified me, gives me credit, and then we can walk them through the plan, right? Like the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come out, I'm going to give you precise measurements. I'm going to make sure that we get all the information we need to get you an accurate estimate. Then I'm going to deliver the solutions to you that'll help you solve those problems and make you not feel so frustrated. And then we're going to stand behind it with a great warranty that you can trust for a long time so you can avoid having this rotten wood that makes you feel terrible and instead have new siding in a home that you're proud of and you can feel great about your home again, you know? And it's like, well,
Go to your neighbors, say,
yeah, or you go to your neighbors, like you need to call them, right? Like offer them a big enough referral fee. So, but that's where like that's your brand, right? Like your brand walks them through that, whether you do it or not. Only because I paid them enough to teach me, you know. But
You know, like we're talking about getting to the core of what is someone's brand. If you're going to start a business, it's hard. There are a lot easier things that you can do in your life than start your own business. And so like figuring out what is your brand and who you want to be, I'll take it to the next level. If you can do the hard work and establish a brand that the company has value beyond like the first and last name of the owner, then what we've been able to do that we're so proud of, and I think the number is like 8 now.
Oh yeah.
We've been able to be on this journey with multiple contractors where we've watched their business explode and then we've watched them execute their exit plan.
Right.
So, you know, I think when you're talking to people about like, what do you want your brand to be? It's also part like, what do you want from this business?
Oh, I love that.
Do you want to be able to hand it down to your kids? Do you want your employees to buy into it? Do you have an exit plan where you're going to sell to a really big home improvement contractor that's expanding into multiple states? And if that's part of your exit strategy, then you're putting money in the bank by building up a really great brand because the sale price of whatever you're going to exit into, it's just going to have more value. So,
yeah, absolutely.
full circle. That's really
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like without that brand, right, you're just trucking a truck or, you know, another roofer, you know, or another siding company.
I mean, the guy who got me into this line of business, you know, our customer. So I was working with insurance agents and all kinds of software companies. And then we met this bathroom contractor here in Raleigh. When I first met him, he was in a shared warehouse building. And it was like this big open warehouse. And one part of it was this lady that sold like olive oil. It was very weird. Like you walk in and she had this display with olive oil. Then in the back, there were like dried flowers that you'd make crafts and stuff with. And he was in one corner with these displays, with these, you know, bath displays. By the time he sold that business, he had 185 employees in 3 states and 7 locations.
That's awesome.
That's branding.
Yeah.
So,
and I was just going to ask you for a notable success story, but I think you already beat me to it. That's huge, right? Because I think that's what a lot of contractors want, right? Like they want a big business. They want it to be profitable. And a lot of guys do want to exit. You know, I think that's one of the big popular things right now in contractors is I want to build a business and I want to be able to exit it for millions of dollars and, you know, retire, right? So it's good.
We've got another client. It's kind of a different story. He's in Missouri. He's a Hardie contractor. He's, you know, I don't know, he might be my age, a little older. But when we first started working with him, he's spiral bound notebook, handwritten, no CRM. And And we've been working with him for a number of years. He's implemented a CRM, and now his son is coming in. And so he's building the brand, and he's also building the behind the scenes infrastructure that's going to allow his son to be successful. So his exit strategy is not to sell to private equity. It's to keep it in the family. But he needed to do that hard work and like take it out of that spiral notebook that's riding around in the seat of his truck.
Yeah.
I remember talking to him and I was like, what's your CRM? And he said, what's a CRM? And I went, uh-oh. Okay, this conversation's going in a different direction.
But it's like the opportunities that your agent, like that we were able to find and grow. Like, so, I mean, you asked about success. I mean, like even when we were smaller and kind of innovating, like what was going to work for contractors who sell Hardie.
Yeah.
You know, we took on clients like that because we wanted to learn and grow with them.
Yep.
You know, now, I mean, I'm just saying it, like now if we have a prospect who doesn't have a CRM, we're going to be like,
yeah, you might not be the best fit for us.
But that's where we are now. Right,
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, just full transparency, but that's a huge success story.
Yeah.
I mean, running radio ads, TV, I mean, they've totally exploded.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love our Hardie clients though. I mean, like y'all, the brand, we keep talking about it. But that Hardie brand is so easy to market. And like, I mean, I know we even played around with like, you know, Chip and Joanna came in and did the Magnolia. I mean, like, you know,
do you
like,
think it helped?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I think it's, you know, it's a great brand. And like, that's one thing about Hardie is like, they want to grow the brand with you, you know, and they do like, you know, they definitely have their best interests in mind. Can't blame them. Publicly traded company, fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. But at the same time, like not a lot of manufacturers, can I say, actually get on board to try to help you as much as they do. You know, like I've not had anybody else do what they've done for me.
I would
Totally
love
agree.
to find another manufacturer, but what we love about Hardie is the local reps really, I mean, the good ones really want to see contractors be successful, and they're trying to plug in where your gaps are. If it's an operational gap, they're going to introduce you to resources. If it's a installation gap, they're going to introduce you to resources. If it's a marketing gap, I mean, that is it's an amazing commitment that they've made to build up the contractors that install their product.
And I think on that note too, like, I mean, Hardie offering the marketing zone through that contractor alliance, you know, I mean, we've logged in and we've mailed postcards around addresses. You know,
They make it easy.
They've just made it so easy. And the point system, Hardie is a joy to work with. So and we're not just saying it because of the podcast, but the clients that we have and have kept for a long time are Hardie.
Yeah, it's a great way to grow your business, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a contractor, you want to make more money, there's two ways to do it. Either increase your service area or offer more services. And there's so many roofing contractors out there that are like, how do I make more money? And it's like, well, a lot of them are storm chasers. So it's like the seasonal business, but like, how do you add something consistent into your business? Well, like put Hardie into your business and it'll help you a lot. I know it's helped mine a lot. So, well, so what are some common misconceptions contractors have about marketing? I know you could probably go on with this one for like days. Yeah.
We've touched on a few of them. I think the first one is there's no magic bullet. I think you guys are getting inundated every day with these people sending you emails saying, I can book you 30 appointments. If I had that magic button, I would be pressing it all day long.
Right.
So
for the highest quality leads,
for the
like,
highest quality
leads. Yeah.
Some of the other misconceptions, again, we've kind of talked about these. And I'll go ahead, I'll be vulnerable. Again, like what we do most of every day, we do some print and some direct mail, some offline stuff, but the huge bulk of what we do is online digital marketing. I think there's a misconception that contractors can get every lead they need from SEO and PPC alone.
That's good.
If you don't have something else to build up your brand in your service area, it is so competitive and it's going to be so difficult to try to do everything you need to do online exclusively. So, you know, you've got to have something else going on in your service area to build that name recognition. The brand. And then your digital marketing, it works in concert with it. But where we failed with some clients, and this is us learning lessons, where we thought the internet alone could solve every problem. And we went in with the contractor like, yeah, go internet.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing anything on the ground where they were. And it didn't work.
It just didn't. I mean,
it didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to them either. I'm like, I would tell you, stop spending this PPC money and please go sponsor.
Yeah, sponsor a little league.
Like just do something to
wrap your truck, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and then come back to us.
Yeah, wrap your truck, sponsor, you know, if you've got like a I don't know, sports. I was going to try to go sports. What were the
Little
ice
League's
caps?
good? No.
No, like what's something like, so ice caps before we had the hurricanes. What's the name of that level of sports?
Semi-league, pro league.
God,
Corey, what is it?
I'm just showing that I don't know sports. Before there's a professional hockey team, there's the lower level hockey team.
Like the A league. Like we've got we don't have a professional baseball team here. We've got like the farm team, right? Yeah.
Here in Raleigh, we've got in Durham, the Durham Bulls. They're not at the Atlanta Braves level; they're lower. Right. And then there's the Mudcats.
Yeah,
that's our
farm. That's our farm league.
Yeah. So either little league, or if there's some farm league where you could get in, it's a lower dollar amount, but it's a big bang for your buck to get your brand name out there. Yeah. Look for opportunities like that, especially like in the South. One time we went down a rabbit hole where we were looking at high school football in Alabama.
Yeah. Get your name up football. On the
Yeah. Oh, it's so cheap. Get into their calendars. Like that's one thing we do is like we'll do the calendars with like the local schools, you know, and like some of the schools around Indy, I mean, they got like 3,000 students, you know, and our target customer, you know, Hardie's told us our target customer, it's Christine, and she's got a couple kids. She's 35 to 55. Well, great. Then I need to be involved with where the kid's going to be and where Christine's going to be out there watching the kids and
her bulletin board in her kitchen.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's just so many opportunities there, but I think you're right. Like when you say that, because even like as like contractors, sometimes it's easy to be like, well, everybody just goes online to actually choose somebody, which it is true to some extent, but it's like if they saw you at the little league and then they go to search, then they're way more likely to choose you than if they just go online and then your competitor is sponsoring the little league team. We just did a deal recently where they're like, I don't know if you've heard about this yet, there's like it's a company called CGI and they're working with mayors. And so we got on one of our local city websites and we're going to be the exclusive roofing, siding, window contractor for the city for 3 years, right? And so we made them like this little like 1 minute video. And so, but it's like primarily going to be for new people moving to the area, but it's like, you know, you move to the area, you see our name.
Indianapolis Newcomer Guide. We're looking at the website, your CGI Digital.
Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna.
Yeah, that's great. You should check it out. But it's like you said, like, I mean, there's just so many different ways to get involved other than just like your website, SEO, PPC, right? Like it goes back to the branding, right? Like how do you brand the company? I think vehicle wraps are huge. Yard signs are, not equally big. Just like whatever you can do to start getting in front of people. And like I don't know if you hear about this, but like I get customers all the time that are like, yeah, my kids are in Little League. Like I ask them like, hey, can I sponsor your team? Most of the time it's less than $500. And once I ask them, they're like, you want to do that for us? And they're like, that's awesome. And then all of a sudden they're telling all the other parents on the team and we're in. So
a contractor volunteered to sponsor little Timmy's Little League team.
Yeah.
You look like Santa Claus wrapped in chocolate, Ben.
Cory is our dream client. I think another misconception, I mean, just to put change that is, I mean, Cory, you and I talk about this. Like, I don't think every lead is actually dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, this lead may have not been at the right time, the right person. Nurturing leads is something you should always, always, always do and have that game plan.
Yeah, I think you're bad. I think you're 100% right. It's like they're not dead. Even people, like, I hate to say this. I say this lovingly about our customers, but they're liars. And they say, like, you know what? I filled out the form, but I'm not really interested anymore, because they filled out 3 forms and one of them was Home Advisor, and now 50 contractors called them in 2 minutes, and we called it minute 3, and they're still like, But then like a month later, then they're actually kind of interested. Or even if they're like, I bought from somebody else, sometimes they're just telling you that because they just didn't want to make a decision and it was more than what they budgeted, but they didn't want to tell you they didn't have the money for the project, right? So it's like keeping them in that loop as long as you can. Just like I think we say it sometimes where you're like, well, who do you want me to send it to? And I'm like, send that email marketing to everybody you have an email for, right? Because we also offer multiple trades. So it's like, yeah, if maybe they did buy the siding or roofing from somebody else, well, maybe they still need windows or gutters, right?
Perfect. Exactly. So not every lead is dead is, I think, a misconception.
Yeah, I'll keep taking it back to the OG, the client that grew to 185 employees. This was back in the day. We used to do a lot of postcards. So this client, they did a lot of home shows. They did every fair, every festival that people gathered at. He had a booth there. And, you'd fill out a form to win something free. And then that would trigger, we were in their CRM, and that would trigger us. We were like facilitating this crazy amount of direct mail where they would get 8 postcards over like a 1.5 year period. Yeah. And we would go crazy with the postcards, all kinds of like goofy stuff, dogs with leis, like Hawaiian leis. So somebody would walk into his showroom, and again, this is a Bath client, walk into his showroom and finally pull the trigger. And he would say, how did you hear about me? And they go, I don't know. I found you on Google. Well, in the CRM, they filled out a form at a trade show 2 years ago. They got 8 postcards. They were called 4 times. They had a sales rep come out to their house and measure their bathroom. They were rehashed. Like they'd gone through this whole journey. And then when they finally sold, I really think they don't remember it because people are busy. They're like, I don't know. I think I had somebody out here. Yeah. They've been in your CRM. If you nurture them long enough, the ones who are actually still going to buy, then you've got a chance at bat to be the one they buy from. But if you don't nurture them, you have no chance. Yeah.
Or we even get it where it's like they come in online and it's like, well, how'd you hear about us? And they'll be like, we saw you on a billboard or we saw you on this flyer. And it's like, okay, and I'm sure they did, but then it's like, okay, but that was what got you to making the call. And I think you're right. Like, I don't think they're lying. They just think about it differently.
Well, that gets into like attribution. I mean, if you want to go deep nerd, like, okay, they did see your billboard. Some part of you having a billboard was effective, but you were also running a PPC ad. Some part of that was effective.
Right.
If you've got truck wraps, they might have seen your truck wrap another day, but don't remember it. And then if you really want to slice and dice and try to attribute some marketing dollar to that lead, I'm not sure. I mean, then you get into like primary attribution, secondary attribution. Some of it, we're just like rolling the dice,
That's hard.
And I would say that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we see is that contractors think you can actually trace every marketing dollar or every lead and go, there's a 1-to-1 correlation between this lead and that billboard and this lead and this PPC ad. But you see it from your customers. They're like, I don't know, I saw your billboard.
And then we can physically see that they came through a PPC ad.
Yeah.
first siding contractor. But you know what? It was probably the double whammy. They saw you guys and then they typed in siding contractor because maybe they couldn't.
I mean, maybe they filled out a paid social ad 2 years ago.
Totally.
And we've been hitting them
Yeah.
with emails ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it's like, okay, hey, we can be here as JHC in a box, help somebody price, sell, and install. But it's also just as important to help them understand this like bigger picture, because what it seems to appear sometimes, I feel like, is not how it actually is, or there's like many more factors going into it. And when you're getting started into this, it's like, how do you know, right? Like, I mean, I learned trial by error over, a decade of trying to figure this out on my own, but it's hard to know. And that's where it's like, you can skip this learning curve and kind of jump to it if you find some people that can help you, right? Same thing with you. It's like finding a marketing company that actually knows. I mean, I hired many marketing companies early on. And it was like, they weren't specializing in Hardie contractors, right? And I remember telling that to Hardie, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And then they're like, "We've got somebody for you, right?" And yeah,
Pandemic happened.
yeah, I know, right? So what do we need to see more of from contractors when it comes to online marketing or their digital presence? What do they need to just do more of?
We talked about this. I'll say it again and again and again and again. Reviews. You must get reviews. I mean, again, we can do everything in the world.
We can do the digital component, but Cory, like it's training with your installers and your project managers. Reviews are so important. So, and we know that it's really like the bulk of the lift there goes back to you guys. There's only so much we can do.
So I spent years struggling to get reviews, right? Like, I mean, Caitlyn, you saw it, like, and it was just like, like to get.
It's okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, I swear I'm going to get more reviews for you. And then it would be like, hey, did you get any reviews? No. So I want to know, like, is it just me, or is that really common with a lot of contractors just trying to figure out how to get the reviews?
It's hard.
It's hard. And that's why I think a lot of these little tiny, like there's a lot of businesses out there that help you generate reviews. I mean, there are. That's all they do. It sends out automated text. It might send out emails to help you generate reviews.
So some other things that we, like if we could wave a magic wand and say what we'd like to see more of from contractors, I personally would like to see contractors take a little bit more time to get a basic education, like basic education about some fundamentals of digital marketing. Like at the top of this podcast, we talked about what's the difference between SEO and PPC.
Yeah.
Like we're not saying we want you to do our jobs. I do not. But what breaks my heart, and I've seen it more than once, I've seen it in the last 2 months, is a home improvement company, Hardie siding contractor, whoever, they will go to an agency and they'll get a website that maybe the agency gave to them for free.
Right.
And they only charge them for the leads. Well, then 2 years down the line, they're not generating anything good off of that site. It doesn't rank. It's not generating leads.
And they've left it alone.
Because they've left it alone. What they did was that agency gave them a template and basically said, hey, it's on you. You got to post pictures. You got to post blog posts. And the contractor's like, dude, I'm a roofer. What are you talking about?
I know, right?
And then when the time comes for them to get more serious about their online marketing, they have this rude wake-up call where they realize they don't own their website. They don't even own their domain name. They don't have a login to their Google business profile that has the 12 reviews that they clawed somebody's eyes out to get to. They don't have a single login to a single thing that represents their business online because they weren't really an educated consumer of what those products were. And they were like, well, I hired somebody and it's their job to do it. And I'm like, sir, I hate to be the one to tell you, your company name, roofing.com, you don't own that.
It is your business.
It's your business. You don't own the website
or your Google business profile.
You don't own any of the photos on it.
And I've been there just to be honest. Like I've been there and it sucked because it's like at the beginning, they're like, we do it all for you. And they don't really like allude to the fact that it's like, you're not going to own any of this. it's just like, yeah, we take care of your website, we take care of this, and then it turns out like, oh well, I don't even own any of this now, right? And that is a tough place to be. And I think you're right. But it is tough, like, right? Like, I mean, I've been in that spot. I remember when you guys did your demo even 5 years ago, and I was like, gosh, this is so over my head, you know? Like, I totally want to grow my Hardie business. I was like at that point where I was like going to the next level, but it was like, but you're right. Like, and part of that, what helped me was like meeting with you every month, right? And being like, okay, Cory, this is what you need to do. We like that pat on the back. Like, you need to get more reviews, right? Like, you need to like get me pictures of those featured projects, you know, like you need to tell me what happened on these. You need to follow up on your leads, right? You need to make sure like, here, I got the recording. It's not going the way you thought it was, right? Like, I mean, it's all those things, right? But that's the basic education process of it, right? Is like understanding what goes into it so then you can contribute.
If I put myself in your shoes and you're saying like, I did it, I didn't own my website, I don't know, I'm just going to make up something like, I can't work on a car to save my life. If I took my car in and a mechanic told me a bunch of car mechanic words, I'm like, okay, I want cargo. You make cargo? Like, I get it. I get how what we do is technical. It's on the internet. It's a bunch of acronyms.
You can get taken advantage of.
You can get taken advantage of. I guess, like, just read the contract.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen contractors that didn't even read the contract. And then I'll say, well, do you have the contract? Can you send it to me?
Right.
And then it's right there, clear as day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Fun.
I know, but we've
all made mistakes.
experienced.
I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes.
It's like, if you're a contractor and you want to really figure out, just go do some deals and get burned, and you're going to find out, right? If you don't educate yourself, you're going to feel it, right? And it's not fun.
On my darkest day, I wonder if that's like the only way, where contractors actually have to get burned a couple of times. Some of our best customers come to us bitter and jaded.
Yeah. Well, like, I feel like any of the contractors I talk to, it's like, I would like tell them a story like that, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been there too. Don't worry. That's like part of the game. Right. So let's flip the coin. So we know what we need to see more of from contractors regarding their online marketing. Like, what do they need to do less of? Like, what are contractors doing that like is either like not bringing them any value or is hurting their online presence, but they think is just like the best thing since sliced cheese?
We like all of this. I hope it's repetitive and it resonates with you. I mean, owning the leads, like thinking that you are with an agency and the leads that they're generating are your own. There's a lot of companies out there that, like, to your point, will sell that same lead to multiple businesses. So I think really, what do we need to see less of? I think I'd like to see, I don't know where to go with that, but I guess like maybe it goes back to, I need to see less,
stop supporting like the Angies and the home advisors that are farming out all these leads. Like, I mean, even now, like I see it on my Facebook where it's like, you know, it's not like a contractor advertising for siding. It's like, do you want to know how much new siding is in your area? Well, check this out, getnewsiding.com. And it's just somebody that's farming leads out to contractors. Yeah.
That's where I think I was going.
Yeah.
Like,
so, I mean, I totally get it. Like, it is a fast way. And you said yourself, Cory, you cut your teeth. You learned how to answer objections. You learned how to do in-home sales calls by buying those lead aggregators. But the more we feed them, it just makes it more competitive for everybody, because those big companies have more dollars to beat out your local ads and push your ad down.
Right.
So if you're feeding money to those companies, you're just feeding more competition on that search page. Another thing I'd say maybe see less of this, I haven't seen it a lot, but I have seen it, where contractors think, you know, if one is good, two is better. And they will
that's much better
hire
than my answer.
more than one agency to do the same thing at the same time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But they don't tell us about each other.
I mean, nice. What what they don't realize.
Is the worst case scenario.
You are
we've
bringing
seen
back all of the bad memories.
You guys are gonna have nightmares tonight when you go to bed.
I'm like, wow, I thought I blocked that out one night when I drank a bottle of wine. Nope, here it is.
the worst example that we've seen of that. And I really want to believe that the owner of this company thought that they were doing the best for their company.
Sure, of course.
They had multiple websites at multiple domains and multiple agencies promoting the same company in the same city. And then at a certain point, they allowed multiple agencies into their Google ad account and were running ads from one account to two different websites at two different domain names. All of this nonsense got their ad account shut down.
As it should have.
And their Google ad account was the #1 generator. And this was at the time like a $11 million company.
Oh, totally.
Like not a small company. A lot of salaries and families wanted to eat depended on this company to feed them. And they got their ad account shut down. And it was months before they could get their ad account turned back on. And it was all because the owner was like playing multiple cards on the table. And none of the agencies knew the other ones even existed. And so like Google's policies were being violated.
All of the policies.
But we didn't know. Like we actually came into this situation after the ad account had been shut down.
Yeah.
We got handed this load of poo-poo after it was steaming on a plate. And they called us and they were like, hey, look what we messed up.
We've tried this
And
agency and this agency.
I was like, well, F around and
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like, go ahead, F around. Come on.
so we, like, our staff spent weeks trying to call Google, and we did. We got their ad account turned back on. Their previous agency had tried for 3 months to get it turned back on. So, like, I guess what I'd say is pick somebody. Like, yes, it is a competitive marketplace, but pitting your vendors against each other is not, it's not, I think people think like, well, I'm a tough customer and I'm going to demand this and I'm going to get this guy to do this thing and this person to do this thing. And I'm going to see who's best. Well, then they're not coordinating with each other. And to take it all the way back to something you said, Cory, let's say you've got somebody running paid Facebook ads. And they put an offer up, buy 10 windows, get one free. Then you got a different agency managing your website. Well, they don't know about that offer. Or they pitch to you a different offer. It's an Easter offer. It's a Christmas offer or whatever. Well, now you've got your call center that's booking appointments over the weekend. And then your person comes in and they're like, I don't know what offer I'm supposed to honor. Because you've got all of these vendors not communicating with each other. I mean, that's some of the nonsense that we've seen.
Good.
Where you think you can outsmart the system, keep it simpler. Just try to do something simpler and do more of that.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Absolutely. This has been so good so far. I've got a few more questions. I know we're like 2 hours in, so I'm like, all right, I don't want to go too far, would beat the horse too hard, but it's been so good. I have to tell you that. So very passionate about it. Yeah, well, I mean, you deal with us idiots all the time. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine,
we're fun. That's right. That's what my girlfriend says.
Like
I mean, at the top of the call, you asked about like how we started this business. I intentionally early on, like white collar, cubicle. I was like, I don't want to spend my days talking to these guys.
Right.
So I love it.
Right. And I think like we could do the reverse, Cory. Like I want to learn more about, like, we have a podcast, digital marketing for contractors. So if anybody does want more tips, tricks, because we talk about this all the time.
It's me and Caitlyn doing more of this.
That's awesome.
And it's these like types of questions,
same stuff,
more specific. Cory, you can come on, talk about what you do too, and we can like have a continuation of this conversation.
You should be our guest.
I'd love to do it anytime. You just tell me when. No, this is great. And it's a good place for contractors to like learn more. Like you said, like to get that basic education and to like learn like what's going on from people that know it. Right. Cause it's like so many times it's like there's a million YouTube videos, but how many of them are actually like something that can benefit a contractor when like you focus on contractors, which is huge. So let's finish with a few here. I'll keep it short. So, you know, what advice do you, and I know we've probably talked on some of this already, but what advice do you have for contractors who want to create an online presence and generate more leads through digital marketing?
Any advice that's different than anything we've already given, I would say is like maybe pack your patience.
Experiment.
Experiment. It's going to take time and money. It's not overnight.
Diversify your lead sources. I know I said what I said about lead aggregators, but there's other ways out there to generate leads. So diversify those.
Yes.
So,
and we said this too, like we're talking about online, but we really see those offline investments benefit your online tactics.
Yeah, absolutely. You just talked about your podcast a little bit. You want to promote that? Is there anything else you want to promote? Where can they find the podcast? Anything else you'd like to promote?
Our podcast is Digital Marketing for Contractors. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. Anybody who's listening to this that would like to learn more about FatCat strategies, you can go to fatcatstrategies.com. If you'd like to talk to me, the schedule a call button goes directly to my calendar through Calendly. So, you know, we absolutely are passionate about contractors, and, you know, any of your audience that has made it 2 hours into this,
yeah,
I feel like is a good screener for me.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see how they edit it down, and we'll cut it into some shorter pieces too, but no, that's good. What are 3 things contractors need to be successful with digital marketing and their online presence?
Claim your Google business profile.
Huge.
A modern mobile website.
For your bonus, answer your phone.
I love that one. That's great. What are some red flags contractors should look for when they're selecting a marketing company?
When you are looking for a marketing company, ask just some really simple questions. Who owns the domain if you don't already own your domain? Who owns the website? What happens when I want to change agencies? Just ask that question right up front.
Please.
You know, I like you guys. Looks like we're going to have a good partnership. But in the event that we need to switch agencies, walk me through what it looks like when the day comes that I want to hire somebody in-house or whatever. If you ask that question up front, it will be very illuminating. So that's kind of a red flag. And then a positive flag, I would say, is if the agency that you're talking to right out of the gate starts asking you about your revenue goal, your average ticket price, your closing ratio, and what other lead sources you have, then that vendor is already talking to you about, like, how can we turn this into dollars? Yeah. And that's a good sign.
Good.
And a bonus, again, experience in the home improvement industry.
Yes.
Have they marketed or not marketed for contractors?
Yeah. Yeah. And can they give you examples, right? Like who are the companies they're working with, or can they introduce you to some, right? Like, I mean, I think that's huge. Let's say they contractors already hired somebody. What are some red flags, like, to tell them this isn't going well? Like the company they're with, it's not being beneficial for them. How should they know that it's like time to start looking?
For sure. I mean, we've even hired staff who like help manage and support these accounts for contractors who are shocked at the transparency that we give to our clients. So if you are not receiving information that you need, nor are they taking the time to explain it to you where you understand it, that's probably time to start looking around, because don't get played.
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
Like, Cory, we'll get on a call with you and we'll be like, we know last month wasn't good, you know?
You say it in a nice way, at least, though.
Yeah. So transparency, lead source tracking. Like if your agency is not making some sort of attempt to track phone calls and web form submissions and then track them back to different campaigns, that's kind of a red flag. And then
vanity.
And then, kind of going back to what you were saying
Yeah.
at the beginning, like this transparency with data and numbers and explaining that to you. If what they're doing is focusing on what we call vanity metrics, that's kind of a red flag. Where
I'll throw this out there. Bounce rate. A bounce rate at the end of the day doesn't tell you
a whole lot.
I think it's important to like talk about the quality of your website. That's not in the nitty gritty of whether your website produced a lead. I don't know.
Yeah. This is a red flag. I just thought of this.
Yeah.
This was way back in the day. This was actually not a home improvement client, but Caitlyn was there in real time in the meeting.
No memory.
We had a client that hired a local television company to run pre-roll ads, pre-roll video ads. And so Caitlyn and I, with the owner of this company and with this very attractive young lady
Gorgeous.
who was his ad rep, and I know why he hired her. So she's there and she brings this like ape with her from the IT department.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And what they're doing is they're going on and on and on about, what was it, view through?
Yeah, view through impressions. Like they kept saying like
BS
like
number.
VBM, like LMFOP, QRS.
And I'm like, and
what?
So what Caitlyn had done is she had combed through their CRM and knew every single first name, last name, date of
I had more
conversions.
time back then.
And she challenged the TV company. She was like, this lead came from here. Show me a lead. And they couldn't.
From your LMFOP.
Yeah, from your, like, whatever. You were 17 slides deep in some vanity metric. And this woman with her,
John, I almost said John. I almost called her my husband.